Yeah. Who wants to hear a story? I know I do. Hey you, sitting there with nothing to do, why don't you come over here and maybe try something new? Yes you, don't waste your time just planting your seeds. Let's partake in FlameAmigo619 reads. You gotta pick, he'll read ya, hilarity he'll feed ya, or maybe deep emotions, whatever the feeling doesn't matter. Either solo or with friends, we're going on a trip to faraway places, or maybe not, just take a tip from me. He does have some standards, they're not far-fetched, it's a stretch, so keep that in mind, don't be a bitch. So kick up your feet, find something comfy to sit in, and enjoy the show. Now let us begin.
Yeah, so sorry about missing last week. We kinda ran into technical difficulties and the story was way too boring for us. That and we were missing a lot of people, so we kinda didn't really get very far. We kinda quit, so...
It was a sausage fest!
Yeah, sausage fests don't really work. But, hello and welcome to FlameAmigo619 Reads and stuff. I am your cult of personality, ToonKriticY2K, FlameAmigo619. We have people here today, and let's see, yes, we have, Joel.
Hello.
Joey.
My parents have breadsticks.
Will. Jimmy.
Burp.
Jake.
God has no place here.
And Tanya.
Yay!
And Sage. Today's story we are reading is something very out of left field. It's an Animal Crossing story called Welcome to Camp. Well, technically that's not what it's really called, but I'm just calling it Animal Crossing Welcome to Camp because it sounds good. By Shoebot. Now, this story is a creepypasta of sorts, and we're going to have pictures to illustrate because the writer was so nice to put this on a different site where it has pictures to illustrate everything. So, yay, that'll make editing fun for me. The thing about this, it's a very long story, so we're dividing it into episodes. Episode 1 is going to be parts 1 through 5. And afterwards, put down in the comments if you think we should continue the story. So, without further ado, this is Animal Crossing Welcome to Camp.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
I've always heard a lot of good things about Animal Crossing, but I never owned a GameCube. When it was released on the DS, it received such positive reviews that I decided to give it a shot. Despite the fact that it appears to have been created for small children suffering from Down syndrome and ADD, I was not prepared for the shit that goes on in this children's game. The result is this. I've documented the journey of Billy, a young happy lad who believes he's going off to have fantastic adventures at summer camp. The following images have not been altered in any way, other than to rescale them or to identify which dialogue option is being chosen. This is a literal and practically contextual account of what happens to poor bastards sent to Animal Crossing. This is the true story of Billy. And just like in true creepypasta fashion, it's fake! Part 1. Welcome to Camp. I'd never heard of this particular summer camp, but it was cheap and we were broke. The camp sends us this personal cabbie. I toss my suitcase in the trunk and we take off before my mother even gets a chance to wave goodbye. Like the beginning of all shitty horror stories, it's pouring outside. There's something wrong with the cab driver, some kind of glandular problem.
So, tell me, Billy, why are you setting sail for camp?
His speech is garbled, and I don't like the way he says camp, like he's being sarcastic. Despite the long drive, I never get more of his face than a passing glance. We seem to drive forever. Eventually I lose track of time and start to doze off to the mesmerizing sound of the rain beating against the window. I'm jolted awake when he tries to make small talk. He asks me how I'm going to pay off the fare in a light-hearted manner, as though we hadn't already paid the camp admissions. This should have been my first sign that something was horribly wrong.
Do you have enough to get settled? I'll just have to make you work it off, you scallywag. Yeah. Welcome to camp.
We come to a rolling stop and I stumble out of the door while he shouts at me with that sarcastic voice again, before peeling off with my suitcase still in the trunk. Son of a bitch. All I've got on me are the clothes on my back and a shitty haircut. My only option is to check in. The lady behind the counter is a fucking pelican who calls herself Pelly. Is this some kind of theme camp crap where the adults dress up like animals?
Tom Nook has certainly been in a giving mood lately, I must say. Anyway, I'm sure you're anxious to see your home.
What the fuck? What the fuck is going on? No toilet, no sink, not even a goddamn chair. I get a cardboard box, a candle with no matches, and a boombox that only plays one song. And it fucking skips. I made for the admissions office. Before I even get out of the door, Tom Nook's all over me like a cross between a used car salesman, a lawyer, and a German shepherd, despite being dressed like a raccoon in a goddamn maid's apron.
So what do you think? Looks quite cozy and comfortable, huh? You'll get used to it soon enough. Not to worry, huh? Why don't you come work part-time at my shop, Well then, I'll be waiting for you by the store. Come on by.
Before I can even get a word in edgewise, he tells me I bought this piece of crap shed, I owe him a ton of cash, and I better pay him back. And seeing as how I don't have any money, he'd be happy to let me work in his little sweatshop wonderland, so he expects I'll be stopping by right away. And then he's gone. I stumble around for a while in a stupor trying to get my bearings. The camp isn't huge, but there aren't any paths or trails. It's just a featureless pile of dirt with a few trees. I wander past a run-down clothing store before I notice a shantytown reject with a hand-scrawled sign that reads Nook's Cranny. It occurs to me to just be honest with Nook. I didn't buy a cabin. I'm just an 8-year-old on vacation. Big mistake.
Alright then. First things first, you'll need to change into these work clothes. If you must know, everyone who works here is required to wear a uniform. First off, I want you to plant some trees and flowers around my shop. And don't think that you can dilly-dally just because I'm not watching you. I'll be waiting for you, so don't take too long. And let me know once you're done.
Shit. That son of a bitch plays for keeps, and within seconds, I'm putting on a work uniform and lugging huge sacks of fertilizer out the door. It's after I've started to plant my third sapling that the panic sets in. There's something seriously wrong here. Why aren't there any other campers? Why did Nook say everyone who works here wears a uniform, even though there are clearly no other employees? Was he talking past tense? If I work for Tom now, why haven't I signed any paperwork? And why is there only one old used cabin in this entire walled-in campground that isn't the home of a counselor dressed like some kind of fucked up furry? My stomach's in knots as I bolt across the empty lot to where the large fortified gatehouse sits looming, carved out of a face of solid rock. Two man-sized dog soldiers stare me down, and I curse under my breath for not being able to find a single normal person, but at this point I'm nearing hysteria. I want to go out! I beg one to open the gates, but he stares blankly through my face, and his reply sends a shiver down my spine that's punctuated by my own name.
Oh, isn't there some other business that you need to take care of, Billy? Like your part-time job, for example?
How the hell does this asshole even know my name unless... Holy fuck. It suddenly penetrates my 8-year-old brain like a brick through a convenience store window. They're all in on it. The mysterious cabbie that took off with all my shit, being forced to wear clothes, the impossible sudden debt, the guarded gates. It's all one big conspiracy. I'm trapped here. And I'm alone. Part 2. Hell Week. I cried myself to sleep that night. There was nothing I could do. I was a child out of my element in a world I didn't understand. I tried to call my mom on the phone they put in my bedroom, but all I got was an answering machine that spouted utterly useless Orwellian bullshit. To my horror, I inspected the back of the phone to find there wasn't even a cord, just a cheap prop. They had even gone so far as to nail it down to the shelf. I slept like shit, bolting up in bed at the slightest sound. I had hazy dreams about a legion of half-animal, half-man shadows bursting through my door in the middle of the night and doing unspeakable things. Nobody came for me. The next day I headed back to Nook's. In the sobering light of morning, my thought was that I would have to come up with a plan to escape, but until then I should lie low, not make a scene. Plus, I was starving, and there was no cafeteria or food hall in the entire grounds, just a few orange trees for sustenance. I asked Nook about food and payment. Nook didn't give a fuck. All he worried about was making sure I was constantly working from sunup to sundown. Over the next week, I was sent on all variety of errands for Tom and delivered shit to every resident in camp who all had nice, well-furnished homes. Though I could never figure out what they did during the day. Occasionally, I'd see them randomly roaming the grounds like zombies, but in general they stayed locked up in their houses. One day, Nook made a fatal mistake.
Yes, yes. You can write it on this stationery.
He asked me to send a sales flyer to a resident in town and gave me a blank envelope. This was my chance. I was going to get a message out to my mom. With any luck, the Pelican woman wouldn't pay close attention to the address, thinking it was a sales flyer from Tom Nook. I took a stationery and scribbled out a brief but clear message. Dear Mom, this is not a real camp. I'm being forced into labor. Send the police ASAP. Please mail me some food. Clutching the letter in my clammy palms, I forked it over for delivery, sweat cliff-hanging from my brow. All I could do now was wait. I didn't have to wait long. To my surprise, a letter was sitting in my mailbox that evening. From my mom. The very same day.
Dear Billy, summer is over and it's getting chilly. I slipped on some wet leaves today. It was unfortunate. Guess fall's here. Love, Mom.
What is this, a fucking pun? I beg for food and she sends me an acorn? Is this some kind of sick joke? Oh no. Oh fuck no. My mom never got my letter and she never will. She didn't write this shit. In one instance, all my hopes are shattered, and now they know that I know. I fall into a fog of despair and curl up in my bed hoping to die. But the next day, morning comes and hunger drives me from my misery. Nook claims he'll pay me for all this work I've been doing, but I haven't seen a dime from him. He just gives me more and more errands while the residents mock me.
Oh, a carpet. You're sure working hard, aren't you, Billy?
How does he expect me to pay off this debt? The answer is simple. He doesn't. Days go by. We get a new resident in town named Pate, and if you're thinking he's named after a food made from his own species, you're right. Nook orders me to deliver a massive throw rug to the toupee-wearing Duckman, and I begrudgingly haul it over.
Wow, thanks! Totally cool. Oh, I see, Billy. You're working for Nook. Well, I guess that's everyone gets in over their heads now and then. So, hey! You should take my stove now. Cheer up, Quacker!
Pate shares a disturbing bit of dialogue with me, and then something odd happens. I think he meant to call me a cracker, but when I got home that evening, he had shipped a gas stove to my shack. With winter coming on, it may be the only thing that keeps me alive. Is it possible I've made a friend in this fucked up place? I set it up next to my candle. Are things finally looking up? The seeds of a plan began to come together. It's risky, but I've got to take any chance I get. That day, while Nook's distracted, I steal some paper from his shop. Tonight, I'll send Pate a letter explaining my situation and begging for his help. Since he's new around here, maybe Nook hasn't already gotten to him. That evening, I slip a thin envelope under the Mallard's door. I toss and turn all night. Dear Pate, I'm being held hostage here. If you have any decency at all, please help me. I'm begging you. The next day, I'm heading back from a job when I see Pate walking zombie-like back to his house. He looks like he just came from Nook's. I cautiously approach him, unsure of how to broach the subject. Hi.
Leave me alone! You're like a chewed up piece of gum I accidentally fell on! Gag me, man!
Must have smoked some bad granola.
I should know better by now. Pate's made a scene and others are starting to notice. Out of the corner of my eye, I see the mayor gesturing to me as Pate hurries away. Timidly, I meet him.
Remember, Billy, the mayor always has his eye on you.
And that's when I know what needs to be done. This isn't the mayor's work, or the residents, or the cab driver. This show's being run by Tom Nook. And the only way I'm getting out of here is on my own. Part 3, Questions and Answers. It's time to man up. I've decided to confront Nook. I'm going to demand he let me go, and if he refuses, I'll take him out and burn the whole fucking camp to the ground around me. The only thing I wasn't prepared for was his response.
Since I no longer have any work for you, I'm afraid I'll have to lay you off. What's that? Your mortgage? Oh, well, of course you'll still have to pay every last bill of it back. Since there's no more work for you to do here, you'll have to find other methods.
He acts like it was his idea, like he's doing me a favor. As if all I have to do is pay off this house and he'll personally drive me home. I don't even want to know what alternate methods he thinks I should use to make money. In typical Nook fashion, which I have come to loathe, he continues to smooth-talk me. He wants me to know that he's still the boss, he's still in control, and I don't give a crap. I don't work for Nook anymore. I'm leaving.
Oi, what's this? I see that you do not have anyone on your friend roster yet. We can't have you wandering around strange towns. It just isn't safe.
Friend roster? For my own safety? Son of a bitch. Yeah, I'm free to go nowhere. I'm about to tell him exactly where to go, but I stumble on my thoughts. For some reason I can't seem to remember where I live. I can't remember my address. I've been here about a month now, maybe more, but I should still be able to remember. Maybe I can appeal to the other one.
Ew! Oh, hi. Look, I'd really rather not talk to you.
It must suck for you, bro. You really need to take a shit, don't you?
Yes, come on, bro, but hold me in the train economy. Damn it, Booker, shut up over there. You know the bathroom breaks on for another hour. Oh, just shut up, you tart.
Fuck this shit. I head back to Nook's and let him know the score. This isn't over, cocksucker. He laughs and he gives me a shovel and suggests I start digging. That smug son of a bitch. No court on earth would convict me if I beat the shit out of him right here with his own shovel. But the truth is, I'm scared. I'm just a kid. As much as I hate Nook, the thought of actually killing someone makes me sick to my stomach. The icing on the cake is it wouldn't help me escape. I can't fight off the whole town. I have to get my head straight. 1. I need a plan to get past the guard dogs. 2. I'll need to stock up on food to make sure I don't starve after I bust out of here. God knows where they've taken me. 3. I'll need to be invisible. I'll stick out like a giant catch me sign in this work uniform. Worst of all, after everything that's happened, Nook's going to be expecting me to try to break out of here. 4. I'll have to wait for the right time. But first, I'll need to make some cash and let things settle down for a while. Maybe the best plan would be to look like I'm really listening, like I really care about paying off my palatial cardboard estate. But how am I supposed to pay it off? Nook says he'll buy almost anything. I don't ask why. Okay, well that's worth my time, Nook. His answer? Dinosaur bones. Wait, what? Is he just fucking with me? He tells me to go talk to Blathers, the jerk in charge of the camp museum. I head over to the museum to find out what the hell he's talking about.
Oh, well, if it's puzzles you wish to know about, please do not hesitate to ask. The goal in creating this space? Terribly sorry, am I blabbering again? So to fill the exhibits, I need the cooperation of our fine citizens, what?
I'm off my meds.
While I listened to the owl's patchwork explanation, I couldn't help but wonder why there would be dinosaur bones in a flat field on a beach. What exactly used to be here before this camp was built anyway? And now that I'm thinking about it, why would anyone build a museum that doesn't have anything in it? The only reply I get from the owl is a shallow snore. Owls don't fucking snore.
Terribly sorry, who?
And the winner of Best Snore goes to Samuel Dudley.
What the fuck was that, son?
I start to dig randomly. Now I know why Took thought it would be hilarious to suggest I dig my way out. Only a foot below the topsoil is solid fucking limestone, and that's as deep as I'm going to get. How am I supposed to find anything like this? A few hours later, I'm starving, exhausted, and pissed off of myself for believing another one of Nook's goddamn lies. I'm about to pack up and wash off in the waterfall when something odd happens. I hit something. Could it actually be? It's hard to tell. It's covered in dirt and kinda abstract. With the sun setting behind me, I sprint back to the museum to show the narcoleptic curator.
Oh, this particular sample was a challenge to identify with certainty, but I'm not confident. This is a... What the fuck is that?
Seismo.
A seismic toss skull. I'm just gonna call it that. Indeed it is! Indeed, I would like your permission to keep it in my possession as a donation.
It seems authentic, but I'm skeptical. This greedy asshole thinks I should just donate it to his echoing monument to failed ambition. He clearly couldn't give a wet fuck if I'm filthy, hungry, or broke. I tell him to piss off, I've got raccoons to defraud. Nook's already closed for the day, but tomorrow will mark the first step of my trip out of here. 8 o'clock a.m. sharp. I make a beeline for Nook's.
Let's see. Altogether, I'll pay you 5,000 bells for everything.
I'm actually a little surprised when Nook agrees to pay me for my fossil, but my surprise turns to anger when I find out he's gonna pay me in bells, his own imaginary bullshit currency. It's not real money. It's just a leaf that's been hole-punched. It's infuriating to think of how he continues to fuck with me at every opportunity, an upturned smirk on his smarmy face all the while. But I try to play it cool. I think he actually gets satisfaction out of seeing me upset. I take his money and leave. At first I was skeptical of Nook's decision to stop working me, but over time I've come to understand the method to his madness. He's been forcing me to make difficult decisions. For example, if I pick oranges to sell to him, I'll go hungry, but otherwise I'll never pay off my debts. The same rule applies to almost everything in camp. I start every day forced to make a decision between working and starving. I'm free, but nothing has changed. But there's still one thing I don't understand. Why is he keeping me here? What does he want with me? I hate that son of a bitch. I spend the next few weeks digging up fossils, getting them inspected, and then turning them over to Nook for cash, which I've started to accumulate en masse. I tried counterfeiting his idiotic system, but he somehow knew which bells were which. To punish me, he refused to buy or sell me anything for a week. After that, I bought a fishing rod from him. I've been trying to learn to catch fish. Oranges haven't been providing enough nutrition alone, and with the extra effort of digging, I've begun to have dizzy spells, but most importantly, I'm fucking sick of them. I hated that I was starting to adapt to this life. I was becoming complacent.
Got mail.
I was becoming, you got mail.
I hated that I was starting to adapt to this life. I was becoming complacent. I hated that I had to play Nook's deranged game so that I could afford to escape. But I was starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I had saved up enough to buy a costume from the camp seamstress, which I used to secretly fish at night so I could stockpile some food for my escape without the all-seeing eyes of wandering residents. I knew that whatever they saw, Tom saw. I was keeping the fish alive in my house so they wouldn't go bad. I told the seamstress it was for the Halloween event coming up soon, but in truth it's going to help me blow this joint. During the day I changed back into my work clothes to avoid suspicion. In the meantime I kept busy digging up fossils, bringing them to Blathers and then selling them to Nook. I was starting to lose track of time, and this pushed me more than anything else to keep going. I had gotten pretty good at recognizing where I might find hidden fossils. There always seemed to be small piles of cracked dirt where the fossils rested. At first, this struck me as being odd. What geological oddity would cause the fossils to be pushed from underneath as though they were rising to the surface? And why did it seem like new ones appeared each day in areas where I hadn't seen them before? Over time, though, I would rely on their quirky nature to keep from wasting my entire day toiling in this dusty shithole of a camp. Today was different. I was doing my rounds when a disturbed patch of dirt caught my eye, a more obvious crack than I was used to seeing. As I pitched my shovel into the earth, I was suddenly jolted by a screaming chill that shot through my arm like a lightning bolt. I dropped the shovel and it slowly faded off as I stared at the patch of dirt in shock, like I had just seen an arm shoot out of it, clawing for brains. There was a long period of silence. Nothing happened. I resumed digging and soon hit something lurking just beneath the topsoil. It was a crude statue? Like some kind of ancient graven image. And I caught myself muttering out loud, "What the fuck is this thing?" When it snapped open its rust-heavy eyes and stared into my soul, a metallic word pushed itself into my head where it echoed like a tin can kicked against the wall of an abandoned warehouse. Gyroid. An unexplainable emotion tore through my battered brain, like an unholy mixture of unbridled terror and insatiable curiosity. It was the kind of feeling that made idiots in horror movies open the backlit door, even though they knew a maniac was waiting on the other side to chop them into tiny pieces. I had to find more of these. I had to understand what they were. I wouldn't be showing this one to the owl. Part 4. Let's start all over. Things have been strange for me lately. All the pieces are in place, I'm ready to put my plan into motion, but I've been obsessing over these freaky gyroid statues. Since the day I dug up my first one, I found several more scattered around the campsite, hidden, buried. I wonder how many there are under here. Oh, and after months of back-breaking labor, I paid off Tom Nook's debt. It wasn't the great accomplishment I thought it would be, though nothing surprises me anymore. I went to Nook to get my daily dosage of bitter disappointment to find that he had used his ill-gotten gains to remodel his shop.
Welcome! Yes, welcome to the grand opening of Nook and Go. Yes, I heard you repaid all of your home loan. Very prompt of you, yes. I knew I could trust you to pay it all off, Billy. But that reminds me. Isn't your current house just a tad cramped?
Oh shit, here it comes.
We could build you a larger home. It can hold much more furniture, yes?
I make a half-hearted attempt to be diplomatic. Smaller is cozier?
Oh, Billy. Always the joker, huh? I know a young up-and-comer like you, Billy. You couldn't possibly be satisfied with a house that small. Not likely. So, the roof on your newer, bigger house, what color should it be, huh?
Wait, what new house?
Well, I plan to be finished with your rebuild tomorrow. I bet you can't wait, huh? Now then, there's the matter of the costs of your little project. For materials, labor, taxes, and of course permits, the total came to 120,000 bells. And don't feel rushed. Take your time. Pace yourself. That's just fine, yes? So, I expect to see more of you in the store here. Oh yes, indeed.
He asked me what color roof I like, and before I know it, there's laborers banging on my walls all into the night. Motherfucker. I slept under the stars that night, cold and numb. Now I owe him even more money. He wouldn't take no for an answer. Where was he getting the cash for this kind of operation? Was he able to sell all the fossils, which he paid for me in leaves, for real cash to some shady third-person party? Maybe the fossils are real after all. Was this his plan for me to mine free archaeological child labor? It didn't seem devious enough for Nook. I get back to the grind. I gotta find more gyroids. I made a little shrine to the gyroids in the corner of my recently engorged house. When I found the first one, it would make an occasional noise. Now I had a small collection of them, and I had started to see images in my head, or hear solitary tinny words echo through the living room. I'd hear them whisper things like dig or rain, but could never make out a whole sentence. I would come home and find them in different positions, like they had moved when I wasn't watching. Now that there's several, I hear their voices more frequently, as if they're talking to each other. I'd wake up in a cold sweat at night and creep downstairs to look at them, but they were always motionless. I know there's something really wrong about the gyroids, but whenever I think about throwing them out or destroying them, my stomach knots up like a punch to the gut. It's like owning a childhood safety blanket made out of asbestos. In a sick way, it's like they're my only friends. I haven't thought about my escape in weeks, and my actions have become sluggish, as though every step is a struggle to wade through swamp muck. When I'm not digging for gyroids, I'm engaging in some kind of mindless activity. Monday I spent lazily catching bugs. Tuesday I don't remember. Wednesday I think I fished or collected seashells. Besides Nook, none of the residents had said a word to me for weeks. I had briefly considered, against my better judgment, trying to form some kind of pathetic relationship with some of them before I realized how futile it was. Residents constantly moved through camp without notice. Occasionally I would check my mail and find a letter stating that they had packed up and left in the middle of the night.
Yo, Billy! I'm moving! Man, we had a great time chilling in camp. I think of you when I pump my head iron. Later, yo, Ribot.
Fat Albert Ribot?
Now this is Fat Albert Ribot. Hey, I think of you when I pump my head iron.
God.
God damn it!
Their letters carried generic farewells, and I'm sure they didn't write. I don't even know who Ribot was, but now he's gone. The houses they lived in are packed up or empty. Gone overnight. Where are they going and why? It doesn't matter. The only person in town who even came close to being sane is a dog that makes an occasional appearance in the museum lounge area.
My name is KK Slider. I play my tunes here pretty much every Saturday night.
Slider's the only one that doesn't talk like a mental patient. He shows up late Saturday nights to play guitar. Sometimes his songs are the only thing that takes me away from this horror, if only for a few minutes. Over time I've realized that he comes here just to comfort me. Nobody else ever comes to his shows. I think he truly feels pity for me. He always has a troubled look in his eye, like playing guitar is his way of apologizing. Sleepy. That's how I felt all the time. Not tired, just sleepy. And that's why I was just laying on the ground that day, watching the clouds roll by and listening to the waves break on the shore. It occurred to me idly that I never saw any birds in this camp, never heard gulls crying on the beach, and never saw any planes or boats go by. All I ever saw was rolling blue sky, and puffy white clouds, and tiny packages tied to balloons. Wait, what? The fuck? The absurdity of this hits me like a bucket of cold water to the face, and I jump to my feet, racing to the spot where the strong, salty breeze was carrying the balloon swiftly past the rock walls of the camp. I scanned for something to throw, anything, and grabbed for a handful of rocks, and I just started shucking. Just as the balloon was about to breeze past me forever, I made a lucky shot. The hours spent skipping stones paid off, and the package came plummeting down to earth with a faint tinkle of shattered glass. I handle it cautiously like a bomb waiting for some fool to try to defuse it. Pulling out the wrapping paper reveals a busted desk lamp? It's utterly mystifying. Who would set a desk lamp afloat on a balloon from this camp, knowing that if it ever came down it would be useless? The thought crossed my mind that Nook was just continuing to play his mindfuck games with me, but this didn't feel like Nook. I dug carefully around the empty box to make sure I didn't miss something. I had. In the lining poked a small white triangle, the corner of an envelope tucked away between the wrapping paper and the box. The front was blank. Without a second thought, I tore it open and read,
"Is anyone else out there? If you read this, help me. I'm trapped. All alone. Scared. From Penny."
"You have got to be kidding me." Part 5. Not alone. Could there really be someone else like me nearby, trapped in a hellish summer camp nightmare? I have so many questions, but can only fit a few in my reply. Dear Penny, I was kidnapped too. Where are you from? How long have you been here? Send more balloons ASAP. The next challenge is how do I get a response back to her? With the wind blowing westward, a balloon of my own would drift the wrong direction, away from Penny. And besides, where would I get a helium balloon? My mind's racing, but I pause when I vaguely remember Nook selling a child's slingshot at his store. A crazy idea occurred to me. I purchased the slingshot as casually as possible. Honestly, I don't think Nook cares what I do anymore. A few days ago, I noticed an axe on display. It must have been a mistake. Was he really cocky enough to sell me a weapon? Was he taunting me?
You might want to limit yourself to only cutting trees that are in the way.
One of these days, Nook. One of these days. Anyway, using the largest hollow seashell I can find, I tucked my folded-up note inside and drew a glaring X on the outside. I head to the eastern rock wall. With all the strength an exhausted child can muster, I raise my slingshot and let my message in a shell fly over the artificial-looking wall. I was lucky. It cleared the peak. On the wind, I could faintly hear the crumbling of loose gravel as it tumbled down the other side. I prayed my hunch would pay off. And once again I was forced to wait. Forced to rely on the goodwill of a stranger who would inevitably let me down. When I wasn't digging, I was staring into the east, praying for the slightest hint of the sun glistening off to a shiny, inflated orb. I ran through all the hundreds of scenarios that would lead to my inevitable disappointment. Maybe Penny was caught and punished. Maybe she doesn't exist. Maybe she's actually hundreds of miles away. Maybe she never found my letter. For all I know, it could be sitting on an empty plot of dirt, never to be seen again. The chance that she'd find it and send another balloon message was 1 in a million. And today I had won the lottery. I ran like a starving lioness chasing a gazelle. With my free time I had been practicing my slingshot skills, and now I was a crack shot. In just 2 thwangs, the package came tumbling down. I scooped it up giddily and snuck back to my house, tearing into the wrapping with the closest thing to unbridled joy I had felt since I got here. It was like Christmas Day for prisoners of war.
"Dear Billy, oh my god, I can't believe it. I'm so happy. We have to keep writing. I've been alone for so long."
This time she sent me a bottle full of dirt along with her letter. Over time I came to realize that the items in the box were meaningless. All it did was weigh down the helium balloon enough so it wouldn't float off into the sun. The letters were the real treasure. In the next few weeks, Penny and I wrote each other in this way constantly and only operated at nighttime. She told me she used to send messages out on the ocean in bottles, but she had been caught and punished severely. For her birthday, her residents offered to get her one present of her choice, and she had said that all she really wanted was 1 balloon every day until her next birthday to lift her spirits. She's a clever girl. We started getting into the details of each other's lives, what was the same and what was different. We both had freaky animal-like residents that would move in and leave at seemingly random times. We both had the same buildings. To my surprise and creeping horror, both of our towns were run by a raccoon calling himself Tom Nook, though Penny tells me he used to be there every day, and now she'd only see him once a week at best. We discussed the details of our camps. They sound very similar, so I asked her to send me a drawing of her town in the next letter. While I waited, I drew out a map of my own camp to send back. Though I had long ago become jaded by fucked up events in this camp, I have to admit my stomach twisted when I finally saw her response. Except for a few tiny differences, it was almost identical to my map. Horror started to slink back into my addled brain as a few puzzle pieces came together. I wrote back to Penny that night. Dear Penny, I think there might be more of us out there. A lot more. We have to find out. Between Penny and myself, we got to work, slowly sending messages blindly in every direction with notes asking to spread the word. I borrowed some of her balloons and set them adrift in different directions. To equal delight and disgust, we started getting responses from every side. Jack, Sarah, Aaron, Jimmy, Philip, Emily. Oh hey, Jimmy's in this story! Names were starting to roll in and most of them were confused and surprised that there was anyone else out there at all. Some were just a few weeks into their ordeal. Some had been captives for years. All of them were scared. I started receiving balloon packages at an alarming rate. I began to worry that someone would notice. We requested maps from our new friends in an attempt to figure out where we were or a way to escape. As various drawings started to come together, I never got used to the fact that they were all virtually carbon copies, all walled in outdoor cages. I was surprised to find myself start to get excited. Maybe between all of us we can do it. Maybe we really can escape from this hell. Something was bothering me logistically. Something didn't make sense about these maps. I decided to conduct an experiment. I had borrowed a lot of blank patterns from our seamstress, who was starting to get a little suspicious of my newfound interest in fashion design. On each square I began piecing together the maps I'd gotten, drawing in the locations as closely as I could figure. I used blue to show the beach area and brown lines to show the camp walls. Little white lines marked the gate leading out of each camp. It turns out the camp shared walls, which luckily for us was the only thing that allowed Penny to find my messages. I put a big X over my camp and an O on Penny's. Over time, the bigger image started to form in my head. Trying to figure out where everyone was located in relation to each other was turning out to be tricky, and I had to break it out into several larger sheets. I needed a space wide enough to lay all this out and get a good look. In the dead of night, I dragged out my creation behind the museum, where nobody would see me, and started to put together the puzzle I had stitched together thanks to the work of dozens of small, bruised, and bleeding hands. Oh, hey, crap, how big is this place? Oh no. Oh god, no, please, don't be right. A fucking island? For the first time in months, I fell to my knees and cried.
Wow.
And that's episode 1. We have 2 more episodes to go with this, but put in the comments if you think we should continue this. Honestly, this is a really friggin' interesting story. And what do you guys think? Do you think we should continue it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we should.
I'm all for it.
The first episode of 2013, I'm glad we're kicking this off with a bang. This is your cult of personality, and everybody here in the clan signing out.
Bye.
Say yes!
Bye-bye.
Have fun sleeping.